this one is near and dear to my heart. And this is a panel that is sponsored by our amazing partner, who is also the a partner for this Level Up Summit itself, Indeed, in and beyond the salary. And I am so thrilled to welcome my wonderful friend, Miriam Williams. She is the co-founder at Superkin. And I'll let her introduce herself. I know that she has been looking forward to this day. Hi, Miriam. How are you?
Hi, Blessing. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be with you today. My name is Miriam Williams. I'm one of the co-founders of Superkin. We work with organizations and ERG leaders to create to go beyond parental leave. And that means looking at policies and benefits, as well as layering on top kind of creative programming and events. And I couldn't think of a better conversation to have than, first of all, talking money and talking about how to go beyond just the salary and into
absolutely
a great place to work.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great segue after, what we just discussed around caregiving and how employers can support. And now we're moving into how do you negotiate beyond the salary, right? So you can negotiate the salary. We definitely want to talk about that. But how do you negotiate beyond the salary so that you are, supported holistically, mentally, emotionally? So I am so excited to have you join us with this one. And for those of us that are still in the audience, please continue to go between the stage and expo booth. We will be doing that right after this. The expo booth, where Indeed is available to connect with anyone, to talk about new jobs, to talk about caregiving at Indeed, and also opportunities that currently exist at Indeed. So that's one of the benefits of joining us today. We will also be sharing some toolkits around jobs, benefits, how to level up, flexible work, all of those great and amazing resources that you all came here for today. We will be sharing that in the comment section as well. All right. Take it up, Miriam.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Blessing, for having me. And thank you to the whole Mother Honestly team and Indeed. So my New York Times push alert told me that May was a good month for jobs. We added 390,000 jobs. Salaries rose 5%. So what we want to talk about today is how this community can take part in some of that growth. And I could not think of a more qualified and inspiring group of people to talk about that with. I'll first introduce Celinda Appleby. She is the Global Director of Talent Attraction at Visa. She's based out of Portland, Oregon, with her identical twin boys.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. This is absolutely my favorite topic in the world to talk about, leveling up your salary, your finances. So thank you for having me.
All these things. Thank you for being here. Next, I'll introduce Bolanle Williams-Olley. She is the Chief Financial Officer and co-owner of Mancini Duffy and best-selling author of Build Boldly. She lives in New Jersey with her husband, 2 kids, and a dog.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Wonderful. So this is such a squad. And last but not least, Al Lundy is the head of product and technology and engineering talent attraction for the Americas at Indeed. He's based in New York with his wife and 2 daughters.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to be a part of this. This is definitely something that is super passionate for me. Being a self-proclaimed girl dad, I'm really excited about this topic and being able to join this great panel. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. So excited to get started. And I'm going to just dive right into it. So many women and caregivers today are looking to re-enter the job market after the last 2.5 years. And companies are hiring. But we also know that 40% of job candidates don't negotiate in their salary. So Celinda, if you want to start us off, why should candidates always negotiate?
So first and foremost, it is such a hot market. I'm going to date myself here in the recruiting world, but there's a lot of jobs, there's a lot of opportunities. companies want women like us, no offense to Al, but they are looking for multitasking, powerful women to join their organizations. And we need to start negotiating. From my purview, I didn't negotiate until I got my job at Visa, and it messed up my salary trajectory for all the years that I missed out from those moments. And looking at the total rewards is extremely important. So yes, salary is one determination, but companies have so many other little pots of money, or benefits that you can glean from to get yourself the best package for yourself.
I love that. And Al, you shared with us in our pre-call that you are super passionate about kind of counseling the women and young people in your life about negotiation. And I'm just curious, like, what kind of tactical strategies do you think about? What are the ways that you kind of counsel people to get ahead of it?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I'm at another Indeed sponsored event down here in Atlanta right now called Render ATL, where I'm actually in the process, and I've done it today, counseling folks. Had a conversation with someone that's interviewing, and she said, well, what should I be doing in regards to this process? And my statement to her was, you actually have so much data exposed to yourself. Go get the data, go find out what your market value is in the external marketplace. She mentioned the company offered her a certain salary, but she knows and understands that her value is there. And I said, to Celinda's point, you're the champion in this process. The business, the companies, they want your skill set, so don't undervalue your skill set. I had a very similar scenario in my personal life with my wife as she was returning back to work, and I encouraged her to go look into the market, understand what folks at her current skill set are worth in the market, and go to her leadership and say, hey, this is what I want. I don't want what you're offering me, but if this is going to price me out, what are the other options? To Celinda's point, sign-on bonuses, RSUs, all the things, and actually give yourself the best possible opportunity to get what your value add is in the marketplace for your skill set.
I love that. And just really super tactical, but I still get asked this question. When you're thinking about salary when you're in the interview process, what's the right time to ask or to talk about salary? Is it at the beginning of the conversation or at the end? So
I can take it. So I say you immediately ask. And so in a tactical, practical way, if a recruiter reaches out to me, or even if I've applied, I coach all my clients to say, I'm very excited of the position. I want to learn more. I'm hoping that you can fill in some of those gaps. But before we get started, what is the salary range for this role? That way, if it's not right for me, I can refer you into my network. So you sort of take the threat off. Money's still very important, but you're not saying, tell me the money or I quit, right? It's very, very passive aggressive, but it works every time because they want your network. At the end of the day, recruiters need to make hires. So if it's you or if it's someone else, that is their end game. So either you're facilitating it for your own wins is what you have to do.
Yes, I love that. And then the other really tactical thing I really just want to cover with this amazing group is around that question of when recruiters ask you what you're making. How to Al, do you want to hop in about how to tackle
sure.
that?
Well, two pieces. In most states right now, recruiters shouldn't ask you how much you're making, right? I think in most states that's now a bit of an illegal tactic. But from my perspective, when a recruiter is asking you what your compensation expectations are, I typically would encourage folks to ask, what's the entry, median, and high level for this role? And where you kind of leveling out my experiences based on what we've discussed today. So that now puts you in the driver's seat to say, here's where I feel my skill sets align. Going back to the other piece, I just want to call out what Celinda was saying as well. You should absolutely engage in that compensation process really early and ask about all the total rewards, the entire compensation package, not just the base salary, because I think that can be intimidating for a lot of folks saying, like, if I'm asking for this number, what does that do to my chances to move forward in the process?
Can I just add to that? If you're a person who is not comfortable, asking, or you're not used to having these conversations, practice ahead of time. Practice before, you take that phone call or meeting with the recruiter. Practice with your friends, get yourself comfortable, start asking for small things in your life, in your day-to-day life, and you will get better at, asking for your worth, asking questions that are not, these are not questions that are like, oh, we'll write you off as a candidate. This is things that you need to know for your life or whatever point you're in your life, especially if you're a mom returning back to work, like you said, right? These are things that you need to know so that you can plan for your family, so that one, you're not also wasting your time, you're not wasting their time, as Sally said. And if you know somebody who that benefits, you can pass that on. But a big thing for me, because, generally people are always afraid about asking money, practice. You will get more comfortable, you build that muscle, and it'll just get strengthened.
I completely agree with you, Bola, because and it's not just about salary, but start pushing buttons about negotiating other pieces in your current role. Hey, I need Fridays off, right? Because the more you start seeing that what you're giving and pulling, you become so much more confident when it comes to money, because that is the hardest thing as women, as immigrants, as, marginalized, or underrepresented in most corporate environments. We tend to, at least I was raised to be humble, don't over ask, take what you're given. And this is a whole new vibe. And, the time is now. I mean, you have to do this now. We can't be humble anymore.
I love that. Yes, 100 times to that. I want to ask you, Bola, I love the title of your book, Build Boldly. And one of the things that you cover is how to create work environments that retain and attract talent. And I'm curious, in today's work environment, we can't always use salary as an employer as a lever to hire or attract talent. So what are some of the ways that you've seen leaders kind of think creatively about that total compensation?
Yeah, so really great question. And I think all leaders, if they're leaders in, attending this summit, this is something that you should be thinking about. Employee benefits are non-negotiables now, right? Salary is not just enough. You really need to be taking a look at what additional benefits are you offering either your current A+ employees and the A+ talents that you want to attract to your company. And so for me, when I think about it in 3 different buckets. I know we're not talking about salary, but I think about money. I think about time, and I think about developmental opportunities that I'm providing to my employees, right? So when it comes to money, I think I'll mention it, right? Is there a possibility to offer a signing bonus? What are you doing maybe around vacation stipends? So that's something that we had at our company, where we would give our employees money to go on vacation. And I don't mean staying at home. We mean like actually taking time off and plugging out, right? So look at your finances and see, are there opportunities for you to offer your people money? Because at the end of the day, people do want additional money. Create what works for your teams around that. Money for childcare, right? So this is Mother Honestly, where, is there a possibility for you to give some money towards their childcare expenses that can help subsidize some of the costs that they have? When I think about time, I mean, right now it's peak, right? Companies are looking hybrid, or maybe you're going full remote, right? What are you offering now in terms of time? How are you being flexible towards working parents? How are you being flexible towards other people who are caring for elderly, right? So it's not just about the parents, but maybe you are a primary caregiver for your aging parents. How are you being flexible even to the other employees who might have other issues that they're facing in their lives, right? You want to run an organization that is very mindful of your employees' needs and where they are in their lives, right? So as leaders, being open to these conversations when they approach you, listen, and then see what you can work out, right? If they work in teams, how can you arrange the flexibility for the teams where their outcome, right, is what is valued, not just like presence in the office. And then when it comes to opportunities, what is your employees' goal, like, for their careers? What do they want to see happen? And how can you as a firm or as a company support that goal? Let me give you an example. When I took my role at Mancini, I joined initially as controller. And prior to joining as controller, I was a senior project accountant. There's a knowledge gap, right? I'm now moving from just, working with project managers to now running things at a firm level. And one of the things that I said, we need to set me up for success. So how are we going to ensure that, I can do my job in my sleep, but how are we going to ensure that the gap that I have can be, closed really quickly? One of the things that my president did for me was to hire a consultant to work with me for 6 months, right? Developmental opportunities. I was so grateful for that opportunity, but I asked for that in the interview. Like, that interview for me was, listen, I'm laying it all out. There needs to be alignment with this organization I'm joining. And I need to not be afraid to talk about areas that I need to level up. And how can you as a firm help me level up? I knew I was an A+ player, but I knew very quickly that once I got that opportunity to work with the consultant, within like 6 months, I outgrew the consultant, right? That's what you want for your A+ players. They're not going to use it as a crutch. Long story short, just saying, think about the opportunities that you can provide your employees if you want to retain them, especially in this market. And also for folks you're looking to attract, they need to know that they can grow with you or grow, their experience when they work with you is one that will help them move forward in their organizations, right? So those are the 3 buckets when I think about when it comes to non-salary benefits.
I love that. So money, time, and opportunities, right, are the 3 kind of the levers you can pull to create a total comp package. I want to offer Al or Celi anything they want to add on the topic of kind of this total rewards idea, other things we can play with.
I think she covered it perfectly. So what I would say, just from a tactical perspective as a job seeker, especially if you've been out of the market, and Al touched on this before, just make sure you get 2 things in the very beginning. What is the company's benefit structure? Because they have a PDF that they can provide you. And 2, do your research, right? Just because I'm making $2 at my current company doesn't mean that other humans like me and other companies aren't making $8, right? And so you will be so much more able to negotiate total rewards if you know what your market value worth is and you understand what their benefits are, right? Because every organization I've ever worked for is completely different in benefits, even though they're in the top, Fortune 100 space. And so being able to negotiate based on their, because they're not going to create benefits for us is a key here.
Absolutely. I want to share like a really quick story. I have a friend who was, earlier in this morning, we all talked about burnout. I have a friend who was like mom of 3, burnt out to the core, went on a 3-week vacation in Australia, came back refreshed, walked into her boss's office and said, I was about to quit, but here are the things that you can do to keep me so that I don't quit. I want to work out and take in the morning and take my kids to school. I want to be done with work every day at 5 o'clock. And these are the things about my job that I don't like and that aren't working and we need to resolve. And her boss looked at her and said, that all sounds pretty reasonable. Why don't we do that? And I'll never forget the moment of her telling me that story of like, what if we all just did that? So with that sort of framing, I want to ask, what kind of front lines experiences have you heard of people negotiating for different benefits or flexibility while they're in the role they have? Because it's not just about necessarily getting a new job, but what can we do while we're in a company or a role that we love? I'll ask Al that question.
Sure, I'll go. So I've seen very similar to what you just shared. I've actually seen scenarios where someone was actually wanting to go raise a family and they were struggling with the current challenge, and they asked their leader, like, what's the possibility of me working 4 days a week versus the 5 full days? What's the possibility of me actually working from home a couple of days a week? And the reality of it is, I think that should be the norm just in general, right? Because I think to what Sully said is like, we're A players. No one is going to work to be a B, C, or D player. Everyone is going to work to put forth their best. And I think you should get that reciprocation from your organization to enable you to be at your best. You hear a lot of conversation right now around mental health and social safety and all the things that we as associates and employees want to have. But I've seen folks, I've actually have someone on my current team that has having conversations with her leader around her flexibility and what she needs to be able to support her family. And we're going to meet those. I'm at this event yesterday. One of the folks on my team said to me, how do you feel about a sabbatical? And what's the longest? And I was like, wait, that's a great question. So let's talk about sabbaticals. Let's talk about the impact to making sure that you are at your best as an employee and that you feel that the organization is going to enable you to be at your best. So that's my lens on it. And I've seen it on the front piece, and I'm actually addressing it right now in my current organization to understand if someone is gone for 3 to 6 months, we as an organization should be able to sustain. That person's bringing great things, but we should be putting efficiencies in the process to make sure that no one feels like they can't walk away for a day or they can't walk away for 3 months to make sure that their mental state is at the place it needs to be.
Miriam, can I just, Al, super great points that you just brought up. And it just has me thinking, right? A lot of us have worked nonstop since we left college. You know, if you happen to go to college, right? It's like this nonstop journey. And Al, I love the fact that, you know, your employee brought up the fact that they want to consider a sabbatical, because a lot of people won't even think to ask that. And I think people forget that life is happening for us as we're in our jobs, right? We are moving through different seasons in our lives. A great example, you know, one of my staff employees, she had her first baby, she had her COVID baby, and, you know, like she had to be home. She had to be home. She couldn't be, you know, she couldn't commute. Now that we're even back in the office, she has, you know, issues with maybe childcare and stuff like that. And I just think, how can I be the leader that I wished I had when I first started having babies? The leaders who are now in all your different organizations, really take some time and challenge your leadership if you're not creating an environment that truly supports all these different aspects that happens in life, right? How can we, as Al said, how can we, if someone needs to take 3 months off, how can we make it happen in our group? What does that look like? Leaders also can't even take time off, right? So I think about a challenge that leaders have, like someone like me who's in maybe C-suite, like, am I able to step out? Have I set up my team properly so that if I need to step out, whatever, for a day, can the team function without me being there, right? So these are a lot of things I always think from a leadership perspective that you really have to challenge yourself. Look at how you're leading and make sure you're leading boldly, right? Make sure you're challenging the norm. Make sure you're not just carrying over old habits, old standards, just because it was done that way. Create the work environment you wished you had that would allow your people be nourished, thrive, and just do great work for you.
I love that. I love that. And I think this idea of redundancy as a strength is something that I think, in the work that we do at Superkin is super related to parental leaves, to thinking about how do we all move together as an organization. So I love both the points that you, Bola, and Al made. I want to ask about sort of parent-friendly policies specifically. In the last panel, we talked a little bit about sort of being an advocate. How have you, as an employee being an advocate, how have you seen parent ERGs in each of your roles advocate for specific parent-friendly policies? I'm curious if you've seen anything, and I'll ask Celi first.
Yeah, so we started at Visa. We started a parent ERG, and we's French. I had nothing to do with it. I'm just a member, but and I've seen so much great change. Right, we've had our C-suite working moms tell us that they're struggling too. And listen, we're all struggling, right? Which is why I love Mother. Honestly, it keeps me grounded. But to hear it from people that are, in the trenches with you is very rewarding. We recently went from 6 weeks of parental leave, paid parental leave, to 14 at Visa. It's only been a couple weeks since we went to that, and it's gender neutral. And it's whether you birth or adopt or however you become a parent, there is no question asked. And I think that comes from the unity of parents saying, hey, we need more time, and hey, we need this. And it does, as change happens slowly. But I feel Visa has become so much more parent friendly. We have fertility benefits for people that are looking to start a family. And I think when you set when you give your employees a voice, right, regardless of what the ERG or the employee resource group is, you create unity to say, hey, now we're in strength in numbers and this is the gap we see, and help us close it. And I think that is so much more helpful, at least for me as a member of the ERG.
I love that success story. I want to make sure we have time to address. There's a question from the community around a career pivot. Someone took some time off, a career pause, and now they're pivoting out of higher education. And the question is, how do I assess value pivoting to a new industry with years of experience and well-rounded skill set? But how would you frame that, Al?
Sorry, I was on mute. Great question. I think we forget, and even I will say this, pivoting from retail to financial service and technology, I was challenged, right? I think one of the best ways to do this is actually, again, do your research. But the clean way to do this is there are so many transferable skill sets in everything that we do. I mean, each one of us on this panel are in a different industry. That's not to say we can each do each other's jobs, but there are skill sets that we all bring to the table, which is the reason why we're on this panel. And I'm pretty sure the person that asked this question has transferable skill sets from the previous industry that will easily make it an easier transition for them to step into a new role. So what I do, I actually sat down with someone last week, as a matter of fact, and we looked at all their experience, and they said, hey, I want to do this. And I asked that person, I said, take a look at that job description that you're looking to go after. Take a look at your existing experience and write down 4 or 5, maybe 10 bullet points and say, wait, can this transfer? And I think that'll help you make this decision and help provide you the motivation that you need to actually say, I know my skill sets match. Just because someone's using different words in a job description doesn't mean that I can't bring value add to that role. So that would be my recommendation.
No, and I love that. And just to add, because I think the question says it was an unexpected career pause. Now the world has changed in the past 3 years. And so nobody is looking at your career pause in a negative fashion. I guarantee you, so many people have taken time off. And so I think you need to get right with the fact that you took a pause, and then the confidence will seep out so you don't feel like you're being rejected for that. And if you're being rejected for that, shame on them. It's not the time to do that. The other thing I'll say is, because you want to get into higher education, network with people in higher education. Get yourself entrenched, virtual conferences. Make sure you're chatting so that way you're making friends in the chat. Put yourself out there a little bit. That is not necessarily just applying to jobs, because you'll see more reward, at least immediate reward, people to people. And then perhaps as you build your network in a new environment, it'll be so much easier for you to get a job.
That's great advice. That's great advice. And it's interesting with the way we've all become so accustomed to virtual networking, how it's incredible how accessible people are that might not one day, in our past lives have been. I want to give an opportunity for, yes, Al.
Miriam, can I just add, whoever asked the question, I will be more than happy to spend some time helping you navigate this, because I'm doing it right now with friends. And if someone wants to share my information, I will gladly support that transitional conversation.
Al, you rock.
Al is like the ultimate career coach here. I'm totally obsessed. That's so kind of you. So hopefully whoever asked the question is maybe on LinkedIn. Is LinkedIn a good way to access you? Awesome. Okay. I want to offer time for any closing thoughts. I also wanted to give Bola an opportunity to talk a little bit more about your book, if you want to share with us.
Sure. So my book's title is called Build Boldly, Chart Your Unique Career Path and Lead with Courage. And the idea behind it is that we all are on our own unique journeys. None of us have, the exact playbook, but with the things that I've noticed in my career path, moments where I leaned fully into myself. So BOLD is an acronym. B is be yourself, right? Moments when I leaned fully into myself, that's when I saw exponential growth in my career. And so the book really is a playbook that's meant to inspire you to create yours, right? So if you're very, very super intentional, as Sally said, intentional about putting yourself out there, intentional about plugging yourself into networks, not waiting on yourself, betting on yourself. You're going to be able to craft the career path that you want for yourself. The book is also written for leaders to really challenge them to lead their people boldly, right? So how are you creating an environment where you're nurturing and retaining your people? Like, how are you helping them chart their own path? So it's really just a playbook to help ignite that within you. Please check it out. Thank you for giving me some time to plug that.
Always. And just want to offer any closing thoughts from Al or Sully before we give the floor back to Blessing.
I only have 5 seconds. You matter. You are worth it. You deserve all the monies, all the things, and tell yourself that in the mirror every day until you feel it in your heart, because that is, your confidence is your number one negotiating tool.
Yeah, and I'll just say, just don't underestimate the power of being a mother, being a parent, being a woman in this world, because I think too many times that goes by. Like, so you got this, and you have allies, and you get after it.
And for me, just keep being bold. Keep being bold.
I love that. You guys are so impressive. I want to thank everyone for the time today. I'm going to hand it back to Kristen.
Yes. Hi, everyone. So great to see you. We had a great first half of the day. Thank you to that panel. Amazing, amazing things. The comments were great. Miriam, thank you as always for moderating the conversation. And so